We've given your college fund to your sister. Those 7 words destroyed 17 years of my life in a single moment. I'm Rachel Harper, and this is the story of how my parents gave away $27,000 of my college savings to my golden child sister, and what happened when karma finally came knocking at their door. But let me back up for a second. Picture this. You're 17, holding your acceptance letter to Northwestern University, the school you've dreamed about since you were 10. You've got straight A's, hundreds of volunteer hours, and a part-time job at Culver's on Route 53. You've done everything right. Your parents have been saving this college fund for 12 years. Every birthday, every Christmas, they'd say, "This is for Rachel's education." You've watched them put money away your whole life. Then your sister, who dropped out of community college after 2 semesters, who's never held a job longer than 3 months, who just got engaged to some guy she's known for 6 weeks, decides she wants a fairy tale wedding. And your parents? They take your money, the money they promised you for 12 years, all $27,000 of it, gone, just like that. Most kids would have screamed, cried, thrown the biggest tantrum of their lives, but not me. I had learned something about my family a long time ago. I was the easy child, the one who didn't cause problems, the one who figured things out on her own. See, I'd been teaching myself everything since I was 7, making my own lunch in 2nd grade because Mom was too busy helping Adele with her reading, doing my own laundry by 4th grade, saving every penny from babysitting while Adele got handed $20 bills just for smiling. When you grow up hearing your parents say, "Thank God Rachel can take care of herself because Adele needs so much attention," you learn real quick that asking for help makes you a burden. So instead of fighting, I smiled. I congratulated my sister, and I made a promise. I was going to prove them wrong. I was going to succeed without their help. And one day in the future, they were going to realize their mistake. Little did I know that day would come sooner than I thought, and when it did, my family would be the ones begging me for help. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how a girl with no college fund became a multimillionaire executive, and how the family that abandoned me ended up needing me to save them from losing everything. Have you ever had to smile through something that broke your heart? 3 months later, I moved into my dorm at the University of Illinois. Not Northwestern, I couldn't afford that anymore, but I'd earned a partial academic scholarship, and with my savings from Culver's, I could manage. My roommate was Sarah, a pre-med student from Naperville. While I worked toward my business degree, she shared her family's stories, how her parents had sacrificed to send both their children to college, how they celebrated every milestone. I said nothing about my own family. The first semester was brutal. I took 20 credit hours and worked at the campus Starbucks to cover expenses. While other students went to parties, I was either studying in the Lewis Library or making coffee for hungover classmates. Adele called once during November. "How's college?" she asked, her voice bright with the happiness of newlywed life. "Fine," I said. "That's great. Dylan and I are thinking about buying a house in Barrington Hills. Mom and Dad said they might help with the down payment." I hung up. By sophomore year, something had changed inside me. Professor Martinez in my entrepreneurship class had noticed my work ethic. After a particularly intense case study on retail management, he approached me. "Miss Fletcher," he said, "have you considered applying for internships?" "I can't," I replied automatically. "I need to work." "This would be paid, very well paid." He handed me a card. "Target Corporation. They're looking for bright students for their management training program." That card changed everything. I spent winter break in Minneapolis working at Target's headquarters on Nicollet Mall. The internship coordinator, Jennifer Wang, took me under her wing. "You have something special," she told me during my final week. "We'd like to offer you a full-time position after graduation." At 19, I had a guaranteed job with one of America's largest retailers, but I kept it secret from my family. Adele and Dylan's house in Barrington Hills was beautiful, a colonial with 4 bedrooms and a 3-car garage. They'd invited the family over for Thanksgiving, and I sat at their granite kitchen island watching my parents fawn over the crown molding and hardwood floors. "It's a bit much for just the 2 of us," Adele giggled, "but Dylan says we need to think about our future family." She was already pregnant. "How wonderful," Mom gushed. "The first grandchild." I excused myself and walked to their back patio. Through the glass doors, I could see my parents on their knees playing peekaboo with Adele's hands on her belly. Does my success matter to you at all? I wondered. I'd made Dean's List both semesters. I'd landed a prestigious internship. I had a job waiting after graduation, but they still saw me as the responsible one who didn't need their attention. Junior year brought more wins. I completed another internship at Target, this time in their merchandise planning division. They offered me a management position starting at $58,000 a year. I also started investing. With money from my internships, I opened a brokerage account with Fidelity. Professor Baxter had taught us about index funds, and I put every spare dollar into them. My parents never asked about my grades anymore. Every call was about Adele's growing belly, about the nursery they were designing, about how excited they were to be grandparents. They missed my induction into the Business Honor Society. They missed my internship presentation. They missed everything. But I was building something they couldn't see. Graduation came in May 2018. My parents attended, sitting next to Sarah's family, who'd driven 3 hours from Naperville to watch both of us walk across the stage. After the ceremony, as we posed for photos in front of the alma mater statue, Dad mentioned that Adele and Dylan's baby was due next month. "We'll probably be spending a lot of time in Barrington Hills," Mom said, "helping with the new baby." I nodded and smiled, always smiling. That evening, at Jarling's Custard Cup on Green Street, Sarah's parents asked about my plans. "I'm starting at Target's corporate office in Minneapolis," I said. "How exciting!" Sarah's mom exclaimed. "What will you be doing?" I was about to answer when my phone rang. Adele. "Rachel," she sobbed into the phone. "Something's wrong. I'm in the hospital." Everything else stopped. Adele lost the baby at 7 months. I took a leave from my new job before I'd even started and moved home for 6 weeks. I cooked meals my parents were too devastated to make. I answered phone calls from relatives, managed visitors, and held Adele while she cried. During those dark weeks, I thought maybe this would bring us closer. It didn't. Once Adele began healing, once she and Dylan started trying again, my parents' attention returned to them. I was the helper, the responsible one, the one who would always be fine on her own. In September, I finally started at Target. I threw myself into work with a vengeance. My first year at Target flew by. I rotated through different departments: merchandising, inventory management, store operations. My supervisor, Mike Thompson, had worked his way up from store associate to VP of operations over 15 years. "You remind me of myself," he told me during my annual review. "Hungry, determined, but don't burn yourself out." I was living in a studio apartment in the uptown neighborhood of Minneapolis, saving almost 70% of my salary. My investment account was growing steadily. Adele got pregnant again. This time my parents barely left Barrington Hills. They were there for every doctor's appointment, every ultrasound, every moment of Adele's pregnancy. I spent Christmas alone in Minneapolis, working voluntary shifts to earn overtime pay. When Adele gave birth to a healthy baby girl in March 2020, just as the world was shutting down for COVID, my parents became full-time grandparents. They moved in with Adele and Dylan temporarily to help with the baby. I video called once a week, watching my mother hold my niece while Dad made faces in the background. Adele glowed with the exhaustion of new motherhood. "How's work?" Mom would ask distractedly. "Good," I'd say. And it was good. Better than good. While the retail world crumbled around us, Target thrived. We were essential. I was promoted to senior analyst, then to associate manager. My salary jumped to $72,000. I bought my first condo in October 2020. A beautiful one-bedroom loft in the warehouse district. The down payment came entirely from my investments and savings. I didn't tell my family. By 2021, I was dating Robert, a lawyer I'd met at a Target corporate event. He was brilliant, funny, and came from a family that valued achievement. When we got engaged, I planned to call my parents with the news. Instead, I got a call from Adele. "I'm pregnant again," she announced. My engagement news died on my lips. "That's wonderful," I managed. "We're buying a bigger house in Lake Forest," she continued. "Dylan got promoted, and with Mom and Dad helping with the kids, we can finally afford something really nice." Mom and Dad were helping, again. I hung up and looked at my engagement ring, a modest but beautiful solitaire that Robert had chosen because he knew I valued meaning over size. Does anyone in my family even care about my life, I wondered? Can you relate to feeling invisible in your own family? Robert and I had a small wedding in Minneapolis in September 2021. His family flew in from California. My parents came, but left a day early because Adele was having morning sickness and needed them. They missed our farewell brunch. "I'm sorry," Mom said, hugging me at the airport. "You understand, right? Adele really needs us." I nodded and smiled, always smiling. In 2022, everything changed for me at Target. The company restructured and I was chosen for their fast-track leadership program. I was sent to Harvard Business School for a 6-week executive education program. When I returned, I was promoted to regional manager, overseeing 23 stores across Minnesota and Wisconsin. My salary jumped to $95,000 plus bonuses. I was also assigned to lead a special project Target's expansion into rural markets. The success of this project would determine the next phase of my career. For the first time in years, I felt truly excited about my future. That excitement lasted exactly 2 days. "Rachel, I have something to tell you," Adele said during our weekly call. She always had something to tell me, usually about her children, her house, her life that my parents financed. "Go ahead," I said, half focusing on my market analysis spreadsheets. "Dylan and I are getting divorced." Now she had my full attention. "What?" "He's been having an affair with his secretary. Can you believe it? Such a cliché." Her voice was bitter. "I'm moving back in with Mom and Dad permanently, with both kids." My heart sank. "I'm so sorry, Adele. The divorce will be messy. He wants half of everything, including the house that Mom and Dad helped us buy. My lawyer says I'll probably have to sell it." This is it, I thought. She's going to ask me for money. "Rachel, I need a favor." Here it comes. "I know you're doing well at Target," she continued. "Could you maybe take some time off and come help me through this? Mom and Dad are great with the kids, but I need someone to help me with the legal stuff. You know how good you are with paperwork and organization." I stared at my spreadsheets. I was 3 weeks into the biggest project of my career, the project that could make me a VP by 30. "Adele, I can't. I'm in the middle of something crucial at work." "Oh," her voice changed, cooler. "Well, your job is more important than your sister, I guess. My job that I've built without any help from anyone," I thought. "My job that no one in this family has ever cared about." "That's not what I said." "It's what you meant. You've always been selfish, Rachel, ever since we were kids." The line went dead. I sat in my office on the 11th floor of Target Plaza, looking out at the Minneapolis skyline, and for the first time in years, I cried. Adele's divorce dominated family conversations for the next 6 months. My parents spent thousands on her lawyer. They took out a second mortgage to help her keep the house. Meanwhile, I launched my rural expansion project. We opened 5 new stores in small Minnesota towns. Sales exceeded projections by 30%. Regional sales increased by 12% overall. The project was a massive success. My promotion came through in March 2023. Vice President of Strategic Development. Salary, $142,000, plus equity and bonuses. I called my parents to share the news. "That's nice, honey," Mom said distractedly. "Listen, can we talk later? Adele's having a rough day and I'm babysitting while she meets with her therapist." They hung up before I could say anything else. That night, Robert found me crying into a glass of wine on our balcony. "They don't care," I sobbed. "They've never cared about anything I've accomplished." "Babe," he said gently, "you know you don't need their validation to be successful." "I know that," I snapped. "But I'm human. I want my parents to be proud of me." He held me while I cried, and I made another promise to myself. I would stop calling them, stop trying to be part of their lives. I would focus on building my own life, my own success, my own future. For 6 months, I didn't call home unless they called me first. They called twice. Both times, it was to ask if I could send money for Adele's kids' school expenses. I sent the money without comment. Meanwhile, my career soared. I was featured in Forbes' 30 Under 30 Inches list for retail innovators. Harvard Business Review published my case study on rural market expansion. My investment portfolio crossed $500,000. Robert and I bought a house in Edina, one of Minneapolis's most prestigious suburbs. The mortgage application asked for my salary, and I had to think for a moment. With bonuses, I'd made $195,000 the previous year. I was successful by any measure, and I was miserable. The call came on a Tuesday in October 2023. "Rachel, it's Dad." He sounded older, tired. "Hi, Dad. There's no easy way to say this. Your mother has breast cancer. The world stopped. What? Stage 2, aggressive. Her oncologist is Dr. Patricia Kim at Northwestern Memorial. Treatment starts next week. Northwestern Memorial. The hospital 8 blocks from the house I'd grown up in. The hospital where Adele had given birth to both her children. I'll be there Friday, I said automatically. You don't have to. I'll be there. I took a leave of absence and moved back to Schaumburg. The house felt smaller than I remembered. My childhood bedroom had been converted into a playroom for Adele's kids. I slept on the couch. For 3 months, I became the family manager. I organized Mom's treatment schedule, managed her medications, and accompanied her to every appointment. I hired a cleaning service and meal delivery. I did this while Adele lived in her own house 15 minutes away. During one particularly difficult chemo session, Mom gripped my hand. I don't know what we would have done without you, she whispered. Probably the same thing you did without me for the last 5 years, I thought, but I just squeezed her hand and said, I'm here now. Mom's cancer went into remission in January 2024. I'd spent 3 months of my own money keeping the family afloat, managing everything while Adele dealt with the stress of watching Mom suffer. The day of Mom's final clean scan, I announced I was returning to Minneapolis. So soon? Mom asked. I thought maybe you'd stay a bit longer. Adele could really use help with the kids. I looked at my mother, healthy, standing in the kitchen I'd cleaned and organized for 3 months, and something inside me shifted. No, I said quietly. What? I said no, I'm going back to my life, my career, my husband. Mom's eyes widened. That's a bit selfish, don't you think? We're family. Family. The word tasted bitter. Where was this family when I graduated college? When I got promoted? When I got married? When I bought a house? My voice was steady, controlled. I've been here for 91 days. I've put my career on hold, spent my own money, managed everything. Adele hasn't lifted a finger. Adele has children. And I have a life. The silence was deafening. I returned to Minneapolis and threw myself into work. My replacement had done an adequate job, but I had a lot of catching up to do. 6 months later, in July 2024, I got promoted again. Senior Vice President of Strategic Development. Base salary, $195,000. I was now one of the youngest SVPs in Target's history. The promotion came with stock options and a retention bonus. My total compensation package was worth nearly $400,000 annually. I didn't call home to share the news. The emergency call came in September. Rachel, it's Dad. Adele's in the hospital. My stomach clenched. What happened? Car accident. Drunk driver hit her at the intersection of Route 14 and Route 22. She's alive, but... His voice broke. She's in bad shape. I was on a plane to Chicago within 3 hours. Adele spent 2 weeks in the ICU at Good Samaritan Hospital in Downers Grove. Brain trauma, fractured ribs, shattered leg. For 72 hours, the doctors weren't sure she'd wake up. I took another leave of absence. For 2 weeks, I lived in the hospital with my parents. We took shifts, sleeping in uncomfortable chairs, eating vending machine food, and praying. When Adele finally woke up, the first word she spoke was Mom. The second was Rachel. Adele's recovery was long and complicated. Multiple surgeries, months of physical therapy, cognitive rehabilitation. The insurance company fought every claim. I found myself, once again, managing everything. But this time was different. As Adele slowly healed, she began to see how much I was doing, how much I'd always done. I never realized, she said one day, watching me argue with the insurance company on her behalf. You've been carrying us your whole life. I looked up from my laptop where I was reviewing bills and treatment plans. I learned it was easier than fighting for attention, I said quietly. She started crying. By December 2024, Adele was walking again. The cognitive issues were mostly resolved. The doctors called it a miracle. I called it expensive. Between lost wages from my leave of absence and the medical bills insurance wouldn't cover, the family was drowning financially. That's when they asked. Rachel, we need to talk, Dad said, gesturing to the kitchen table. Mom and Adele were already sitting there. Adele's kids were upstairs watching a movie. I sat down, knowing what was coming. We need your help, Mom said without preamble. The bills, they're over $150,000. We've mortgaged the house, but we're going to lose everything, Dad added quietly. Adele spoke for the first time. We know we don't deserve to ask. After everything, She looked down at her hands. After how we treated you. You've always been the strong one, Mom continued. The successful one. We took that for granted. We know about your promotions, Dad said. Jennifer Wang from Target called when you were on leave. She wanted to make sure you were okay. I stared at them. Jennifer Wang, now a regional director, had called my family. She'd told them about my success, my rapid promotions, my reputation within the company. They'd known all along. Why didn't you say anything? I asked. Because we were ashamed, Adele whispered. We spent your college fund on my wedding. We ignored your achievements while celebrating mine. We only called when we needed something. We don't deserve your help, Mom added. But we're asking anyway. I looked at these three people who'd shaped my life through their neglect and favoritism. I thought about the 17-year-old girl who'd watched her dreams slip away. I thought about the college student working 3 jobs while her sister lived comfortably. I thought about every missed milestone, every ignored achievement. Then I thought about the woman I'd become, the woman who'd built a career and a life without their support, the woman who'd just signed a contract worth millions in stock options, the woman who could solve this problem without blinking. I'll pay the bills, I said finally. All of them. They sagged with relief. But there are conditions. Their faces tensed. Adele will attend financial planning classes. You'll both downsize to something affordable. And Dad? I looked directly at him. You'll work with a counselor to understand how your favoritism damaged our relationship. He nodded slowly. And one more thing, I continued. No more taking me for granted. I'm successful, yes, but I'm also your daughter, your sister. I need you to see that. Through tears, they all nodded. I paid the bills in January 2025. $186,743.82 to be exact. I paid them from a money market account that represented less than 15% of my total net worth. But this time it felt different. This time they were grateful. This time they saw me. Adele enrolled in financial planning classes at Harper College. My parents listed their house and bought a smaller condo in Schaumburg. Dad started therapy. And for the first time in my life, they asked about my work. Really asked. They wanted to know about the deal I was negotiating with a major fashion brand. They celebrated when I announced my latest promotion. They came to Minneapolis when I spoke at a retail industry conference. The golden child is still golden. Adele is still their baby. Still needs more care. Still gets more attention. But now I'm not invisible. I'm the daughter who pulled the family out of financial ruin while maintaining my principles. The daughter who succeeded despite, not because of, their support. The one who learned that sometimes helping others is an investment in yourself. As I write this, I'm preparing for my biggest challenge yet. Target has offered me the position of Executive Vice President of Innovation. It's a role that would make me one of the youngest EVPs in the company's history. The announcement will be made next month. This time my parents will be there. Adele called yesterday. I'm proud of you, she said simply. I know we never said it enough before, but I'm proud of who you became. I smiled, a real smile this time. Thanks, Adele. Sometimes it takes a crisis to wake people up. Want to know something funny? She asked. What? Dylan contacted me last week. He wanted to get back together. She laughed. I told him to talk to my sister, the VP. She's good at handling things I can't afford to deal with. We both laughed at that. My success isn't despite my family anymore. It's not even for them. It's simply mine. And finally, that's enough.